Hello and welcome to another Game Nexus arcade video. Or shall I say, this will be kind of part 2 of my Virtua Fighter 3 arcade video, where I will be playing through as Sarah Bryant instead of Takarashi. You see the demo playing here with Akira and Jackie fighting, showing some of the high scores. And now, I don't know if I discussed it in the other video, but when you actually select your character, you can pick either costume. You actually, in this game, hold start when you want to pick the alternate costume. Since moving up and down on the character grid will actually just move up and down to the next portrait. And personally, I have to say, it might sound strange, but I like Sarah's first costume, which I had actually chosen here. I just honestly think she looks better in this costume. I think she has more of that, like, they're trying to force this, like, trashy country girl type vibe going on. And I just never thought it looked all that great, in my opinion. It looks okay, but I just like the original costume here better. I think she has this more, like, sleek leatherette type look. And one thing you can definitely tell when she says better run home to mama now in this game as opposed to Virtua Fighter 2, she sounds like she's teasing you a lot more. She's not just kind of like saying something like she was in Virtua Fighter 2. And I probably said it in my other video, but Takarashi is one of these characters that if you're not careful, although he may be slow, he has a lot of like power moves where he really can take out a lot of health quickly. So if you're a character like Sarah Bryant here, you're best off using like your speed to your advantage because obviously that's something he doesn't have, and plus he doesn't have the ability to like freely jump like every other character does or have like a lot of jumping moves. So you kind of have to like more or less fight rings around him before he can crush you with his weight and muscle. And whenever I see Lion, for some reason, ever since playing a bunch of Virtua Fighter 2, I always think of that line that he says, "I don't make it a habit to fight the elderly." So whenever I see him, I always think of that phrase for some reason, because, like, I don't know if I had said it in my Virtua Fighter 2 video, but when I first faced him in Virtua Fighter 2, I believe he was stage 5, but he was my choke point, so I heard that phrase an awful lot of times, and now whenever I see Lion, I just think of that phrase right away. It's just that, like, phrase that pops into my head. And as you can see here, this is another one of those stages with your, like, incline in it. And apparently a lot of the core Virtua Fighter players got really mad about this. Honestly, I think it kind of adds a bit more of a, like, that dynamic to gameplay, kind of like how the multi-tiered environments in Dead or Alive 2 and so on added a bit of a dynamic to that game as opposed to just fighting on flat plains.
Fight one. Ready,
and now, strangely enough, it wasn't until this gameplay, you're gonna probably see him do it at one point where he does this move where he puts like both of his arms above his head and jumps. Yeah, actually, you just saw it a second ago there. But whenever I would face Doral, she would constantly do that move. And I kept thinking it was a Takarashi move because it looked like something like a sumo would do, like a sumo drop or something. But then I quickly realized he really doesn't have any like jumping moves of any sort. And then I, in this gameplay, finally saw Jeffrey do that, and I was like, oh wow, that's a Jeffrey move. So I finally figured out where that came from. As you know, I haven't had this game all that long, so I'm still learning it, all of its ins and outs. And just like anybody who's had any video game for any time, you kind of learn all its ins and outs as you go. But for some reason, when Jeffrey did that laugh, he made me think a lot of Bass from Dead or Alive 2 and so on. And I just expected Jeffrey to like use one of Bass's phrases like "Papa no Kajit" or something like that, because that's how he sounded like he was laughing. And what I was going to say there is that one where Sarah claps and says "better run home to mama now," that's her flawless victory one. She will only do that if you do a flawless victory and the announcer says "excellent." And now one thing I will say here, because I've seen some footage of the Dreamcast version, which I can honestly tell you I haven't played in a while, but this stage has a bit of a fog effect on it, if you see. It's not really much, it's just kind of a subtle effect which adds this like kind of atmosphere to it, but if I recall correctly, it's absolutely not in the Dreamcast version, as this stage I believe was absolutely clear. In fact, it might even be a little sunny in the Dreamcast version. But it's just like a lot of details like that in the stages, from what I understand, that actually make the Dreamcast version a bit inferior in the graphics department as far as like at least the backgrounds go. But I will at some point be doing like a side-by-side comparison of both versions of this game. And then I could remember when I was actually playing this, I was thinking to myself, well, I've gotten to stage 6 and now Lao's going to totally defeat me, because as you've seen so far, there have been no jump cuts, it's still 2 minutes, and I haven't lost 2 rounds once. So I kept thinking to myself, oh, he's gonna like just totally destroy me. And I got defeated here. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna start already, and it's gonna be like a 20-minute versus thing. And now, it might seem strange, but whenever I see this level, there's a Great Wall level in Dead or Alive Ultimate, and whenever I see this level, I think of that level because, like, that level in Dead or Alive Ultimate, you could actually knock the opponent down the stairs and everything. I always thought that was really cool, and that's what this level made me think of. But I definitely have to say, in a sense, this level has a bit bigger of a scope. I think it looks more like the Great Wall of China and less like a fighting stage, even though you really can't explore it per se. But you still have that like bit of an incline effect like in that stair level with Lion. And the cool part is, I don't know if you actually see in this video, I don't think you do, but you can actually knock your opponent off that edge there as well and get a ring out, which is pretty cool. And now, when I had that weird video problem when I initially uploaded my other videos, when it would show Wolf here, his portrait kind of blended in with that orange background because it was this over-flaring effect due to what was called view transform in Sony Vegas. So if you're ever doing any gameplay footage in Sony Vegas, make sure view transform is turned off, because that'll totally mess up your footage and make everything look either dark or red. And now this is another one of those awesome stages where you're kicking up the sand. And apparently for Fighter's Megamix, when the character Siba, or Shiba, who was the original Akira for Virtua Fighter 1, they gave him a stage that was highly reminiscent of this stage, since Fighter's Megamix actually came out shortly after this game, so they kind of added some of the Virtua Fighter 3 moves and a few of like subtle nuances from the game. And now here, of course, is Akira Yuki, and I remember once I got through Wolf, I was thinking, oh, Akira's gonna totally destroy me now, because I got through everybody else, but luckily, unlike how unbalanced he is in Dead or Alive 5, and he's a bit tougher in Virtua Fighter 4, he's actually not too bad in this game. And of course, I'll vouch for him being like, I believe it was stage 10, because there's 10 stages in Virtua Fighter 2. He was almost impossible, if you ask me, because if you go look back at my Virtua Fighter 2 video, I just took, I think at least 20 or 30 minutes to get through Akira Yuki, because he's just so hard in Virtua Fighter 2. He has that, like, kind of, you're doing pretty well type vibe, and then all of a sudden he just kind of, like, rubber bands right back and totally destroys you. Now, I was hoping for, like, a perfect run here, and I can honestly tell you, when I first played this game, the first 2 times I actually played as Sarah Bryant here, I defeated Doral with no problem, and I was thinking to myself, wow, this game is so easy. I think Doral actually heard me and got mad, because, like, every other time I faced Doral, I've not defeated her once. And now, speaking of, like, weather effects, this is kind of Jeffrey's stage, but it has kind of like thunder and lightning in the background, and I think that's kind of a cool effect. And now, if you didn't notice in my previous video, there's actually 2 versions of Doral. There's the gold Doral and the silver Doral. Both of them have that really cool shiny effect that they introduced in this game. And I remember at that arcade conference, I think it's AOU, I think it was 1996 when they showed this game off, people were just astounded by the real-time display that they showed of this game running on Model 3. And just how it was with the other Virtua Fighter games. This, of course, being the Step 1.0, it was the it was basically like the Cadillac of Model 3 games. So that they were like, you see Virtua Fighter 3? This is the new Model 3. This is the most amazing hardware you're ever going to see. And, like, you know, people coming off of even Sega Model 2, there was Sony PlayStation, Sega Saturn at the time. They saw this, they saw these graphics, they were thinking, wow, oh my god, this is just amazing. And really, it does look really cool. And now, since I actually got through all 8 characters, excluding Drow because her time doesn't count, without losing, I actually get to do the high score thing. So this is how this works. You hold the block button and push forward and backward, and you can change the letter. Then when you get to the letter, you have to knock the letter guy down, and that enters the letter. Because the first time I did this, I didn't realize you had to knock the letter guy down, and I just kicked him. And I believe I forget what actual place I was, but there's a Sarah score, and it's a pretty good one. But I didn't end up putting my name in because I didn't know how to do it. Well, this has been another Game Nexus Arcade video, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.